Hey y'all, it's Joe here, and before we start talking about Hanzo, of course, as you see in the background, the gameplay is not actually me playing the game, and the reason for this is that, as you can see on the screen right now, for some reason, I cannot log on to the PTR in Overwatch at all, so there's no way for me to possibly get footage. So what I'm showing you right now is some nice Seagull footage. This is probably one of my favorite players to watch, and if you haven't seen him online on his live stream or anything, go check him out. Definitely would recommend, and hope you enjoy the footage. It's a lot better than anything I could do. Anyways, though, guys, let's talk a little bit about Hanzo, and he's a character that got a lot of buffs recently, probably the most buff character, maybe. He's just a character that became just a lot better in the recent patch. Now, in the past few months, and especially the past few weeks, especially after the hitboxes were nerfed of his arrow, a lot of people really haven't been picking Hanzo. A lot of people have been complaining about teammates picking Hanzo. People just saying, you know, he's really not that great and you should almost never pick him. But after this buff, I feel like he's actually a very strong character, a very competent character, and a character that you can finally get quite a bit better as and just become very good at playing him. For just one reason or another that I'll talk about later. Anyways, let's get off to actually talking about stuff that affected Hanzo. The first thing to talk about is a little bit controversial, as some people like this, some people dislike this. I'm not going to put my own stance on this, but it's a simple fact. The Overwatch and the Blizzard team, you know, they decided to revert the recent changes that reduced the sizes of heroes' projectiles. Now, this happened a few patches ago. I can't really tell you exactly how many patches, but as you may remember, Overwatch and the Blizzard team just decided, you know, why don't we do this? Why don't we make so that the hitboxes of the actual projectiles, like the arrow of Hanzo and the right click of Mei, are actually as big as the actual arrow and the actual right click of Mei, instead of just these giant log hitboxes that don't make any sense. And they did that. The hitboxes finally fit the actual item that was being thrown through the air, and it seemed like a really good idea. I mean, the hitboxes fit what they actually should fit. But there was a big problem with this, which is that it pretty much just majorly nerfed any character that had a projectile in the game. It became a lot harder to headshot people, it became a lot harder to body shot people, and overall, all those characters just got really big nerfs. Probably some of the biggest nerfs they've actually gotten in a while. So yeah, the Overwatch team decided this was a little bit too big of a nerf. We're gonna undo this change, and they did say in the patch that they are probably going to try to find a different solution to this, other than just, you know, completely reverting the change, as they don't really want these random log hitboxes. Now, as for Hanzo, this is a very beneficial change, as his hitbox did become a very small one. His arrow, when you shot it through the air, became really small, really hard to hit, and of course, going back to that giant log size hitbox, while annoying to fight against, is very beneficial for a Hanzo player. So yeah, it is a really nice buff for Hanzo, but I do gotta say, it is quite annoying to play against, so there is the good and the bad there. The next buff that really affected him probably the most is the thing that they really buffed just specifically for him, the fact that his projectile, or his arrow, now flies through the air 30% faster, or you could say the projectile speed of his arrow is 30% more, which is a really good thing. Now, essentially what this means is that once you shoot out your arrow, it'll shoot 30% faster through the air. What will that do? Well, it'll allow you to hit people easier, as your arrow will be flying through the air faster. It'll make it harder for enemies to dodge the arrow, as it's just going through the air faster. And as well, you don't have to guess quite as much where people are going to be right now, as the arrow is just flying through the air a lot quicker, so you can just hit people more often without having to guess as much where they're going to be in 1 or 2 seconds. So that's a really nice change. It allows him to be a lot more consistent, as now if you're really good with this, you can get a lot more easy headshots, especially at medium to closer ranges. 30% faster projectile speed essentially means the enemy really can't dodge your headshots at all if you're a good Hanzo player. And yeah, it's a really nice change that really only buffs him as far as if you're good at Hanzo already, or just makes players that are really good at the character and put a lot of time into the character get more effectiveness out of him. They could have easily just buffed the damage on his arrow, and that would have just made, you know, the RNG randomly shooting through the air, getting lucky headshots Hanzo better, but this makes, you know, the better players do better instead of just everyone that randomly shoots his arrows do better, which is a nice buff, and probably the best thing they could have done with this. And as well, another thing that a lot of people will be happy about is that this also kind of hurts spammy Hanzo, as having your arrow shoot through the air a little bit slower is actually a benefit for spammy Hanzo, because you just randomly shoot around corners and the arrow will be in the air for a few milliseconds more, so it technically could help you get a few more body shots or a few more extra headshots if you're randomly shooting around corners or randomly trying to spaz out a little bit. So it does kind of nerf that, which is as well a really nice thing. So yeah, overall, I do really like this change. As for another change, which isn't really as big of a change, not really a big change at all, they decided to make him only 30% slower when charging or holding his arrow, or aiming with his arrow, instead of 40% slower. This really isn't the biggest change in the world. I mean, you could already just run backward, just tap, 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 and shoot people that were coming towards you. But of course it is a good benefit. Walking 10% faster is really nice. I'm thinking that'll probably make him have a little bit better mobility, make him a little bit better of a character. Really not the biggest buff, and really wouldn't be the biggest nerf if they decided to put it back to 40 or even 50%. It's a nice change, it's a nice benefit. I do appreciate it personally as someone that likes to play Hanzo. It's nice that you can walk around a little bit faster now. It's not the biggest thing in the world though. It's a very nice change, just not the biggest thing in the world. But I am happy that they added this, as adding just, you know, the 30% was good, but this will make him even a better character, you know. Walking 10% faster is of course just in general a really nice buff for a character that wasn't being played way too often. Now, in general, what do I feel about this update? Well, I feel like it's actually a pretty good update for Hanzo. Of course, it buffs him quite a bit, and as a character that I wasn't really seeing played way too much in esports, and didn't see him way too much in competitive, and didn't see him really way too much in quick play, and a lot of people just complain that he was too weak, or that you really don't want a Hanzo on your team. I'm glad that he got buffed quite a bit. It's really not a buff that'll probably put him over the top. It's not something like his arrow was buffed by 50% damage. It was nothing like that. All it really was a buff that makes so your accuracy can go up, so that you can get more headshots, so you can get more damage at range, and of course a buff that makes so that you can have a bigger hitbox, which allows, you know, more accuracy and stuff like that as well. And yeah, it's just really nice buffs for Hanzo in general. Of course, it will also give you the 10% extra movement speed, which will be just nice as well to kind of outplay or just maneuver a little bit better than before. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about Hanzo. Tell me what you guys are thinking in the comments section below. Tell me if you're really liking these Hanzo buffs. Tell me if you're thinking these Hanzo buffs are a little bit too far, a little bit too annoying. And also tell me if you have a different fix for making Hanzo a good character, other than just reverting the size of his arrow hitbox back to the log hitbox. Tell me if you have anything else you think that maybe would have worked a little bit better, that maybe Blizzard can implement in the future. Now for myself, I feel like the log hitbox is annoying, but pretty good. But of course, a better idea is always accepted. Tell me that in the comment section below. As always, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and have a wonderful day.